Thank you so much. So good to be here.
Morning.
Good morning. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
All right. So first, before we dive in, nice to meet you all. I'm Phil with GumGum. If you're not familiar with GumGum, I have to should probably say what we're about.
Take the mic,
We're an
Phil.
advanced contextual tech company. So we help advertisers work with digital environments, understanding creative and attention, and how they capture moments at scale globally. And so with that, good to see you, Andrea, client and partner that we've worked together, and nice to connect, Marianne. But we're here to talk about you all. So first, Andrea, tell us a little bit about Morgan Stanley, maybe some things we don't know before we dive in.
Good morning, everyone. This is my dream panel. These incredible folks over here and in the audience. So I came from E-Trade. I was actually the chief marketing officer of E-Trade, and what some people may not know is Morgan Stanley acquired E-Trade back in 2020 during the pandemic. And we put the whole integration together during COVID over Zoom. I never met anybody at Morgan Stanley for about a year and a half. Wow. So it was a very unusual thing. And then, we spent a lot of time thinking through how do we bring these two brands together? They stand for so many different things. Morgan Stanley, 88 years old, incredible heritage in financial services, wealth management, banking, trusted. And then E-Trade is this digital native startup, irreverent, witty, just very different tonally. And reached out to Marianne to help me figure out how do we pull these companies together? How do we pull these brands together? And what should be our go-to-market for E-Trade? And we're going to talk a lot about that today.
That's awesome. And it just makes sense, just knowing my own understanding of Morgan Stanley and E-Trade. You've connected audiences at different financial kind of growth sections of their life, right?
That's exactly right.
Being digital first and then moving into that, it seems like it just is an extension to like a full funnel access to
love that, Phil.
anyone who cares about
the
money.
We should. It's really, our aspiration is to be able to serve every wealth and life stage with a combination of these brands and companies. So you hit it on the head, nail on the head.
That's amazing. Well, we work together, so I should be able to do
good.
that.
He's
All
listening.
Right. All right. So, Marianne, let's talk about that. So, Andrea comes to you, 72andSunny. Love to hear first, just what is 72andSunny's kind of go-to-market? Like, how do you win with clients? And then how did you parlay that in working with Andrea to come up with the Super Bowl?
Well, we're very excited to say that this is 72andSunny's 20th year.
Woo!
That's amazing.
And, it's always
I heard
an
some
experiment.
claps. It's okay.
Yes, we should clap
You
for
can
that.
It's always an experiment, right?
Yeah.
So it keeps going and going and going. So at 72andSunny, we deeply believe in strategy and creativity, and that those two things, matched with all the tools and technology and brilliant humans out there, actually create storytelling for brands that grow their business and make a huge difference. But the real thing for us is we're in it. I think what you'll hear a lot today is we love partners that like to go deep, that like to, when we talk about collaborating, we talk about collaborating. This is not a baton pass relationship. When you work with 72andSunny, we lock arms and we go in together. And if you want an agency that you give us an assignment and we come back with an answer, we're not your agency. We're the kind of agency that says, let's align on what the problem is and let's go do it together, because you obviously know more about your business than I could ever know. But how we do that is definitely part of the secret sauce of 72andSunny.
That's
I would
awesome.
agree. Marianne, it's true, and I love that you said it. You become really an extension of the team.
Yeah.
And that means you can text anytime.
That's
late
right.
Night. Kidding.
Exactly right.
Marianne has
True.
received some late night texts from me. It's true.
But
Early
it is
morning
interesting.
as well.
But you have to get into it. When you align shoulder to
into it.
shoulder and you get a little messy with your partners, that's when magic happens. It's when you really truly build, I think, the trust of getting in it, knowing the best interest is how you serve your partner to connect to their consumer, right? So obviously, Morgan Stanley, you've been a huge Super Bowl sponsor, like year after year. How did you decide that now is the time to renew, and then again, and then how did you come together with that? And just give us a little glimpse into kind of the conversations going into it.
Absolutely. So E-Trade has been in 11 Super Bowls. So it's sort of an iconic Super Bowl advertiser. Many of those spots were with the E-Trade baby. How many of you know? Do you know the E-Trade baby? Okay.
You're going to see it in just a
such
second.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Teaser alert. We'll show you some of the work. But we think about the decision every year. Do we have a story to tell? Is there a reason to be on that stage? It is the biggest stage there is. And we knew, now that E-Trade's part of Morgan Stanley, we really wanted to make sure that there was awareness of that. We wanted to build awareness of E-Trade in its next chapter as part of the Morgan Stanley family. And we thought it was, no better way to tell that story than on the Super Bowl stage. I know it had historic viewers, 124 million, I believe.
Yes.
We knew we wanted to be there, and then I think we were all of those who advertised it was fortuitous that a certain Taylor Swift started attending games. We knew, as you know, Kansas City Chiefs were making it further and further, that it would be probably an epic game with tremendous viewership. So the stars aligned, and it was a fantastic game. And then in terms of just coming together, I'll have Marianne tell
Well, I
over
was
that
going to say,
story.
if only we had a Taylor Swift baby concept.
I mean,
There you
right?
go.
That would be really good.
clairvoyant.
How did it all come together? I think one of the interesting things, when you have a platform like the Super Bowl, one of the things we've really seen change in the last decade is that clients come out to some of the top agencies and pitch just their Super Bowl assignment. It's really a way to go to market now, mainly because it's such a high profile opportunity. You want to make sure you're getting the most out of that moment. And at 72andSunny, we are privileged to have the NFL as a partner, and our founders grew up launching Nike Europe. We sport in our DNA.
Everything.
It's just kind of part of who we are. But what was interesting about this pitch is that when you are starting a relationship that is of this caliber and on this level, you don't have a lot of the working dynamics that are in existence when you are in a client relationship. And so one of the big things is, like, obviously the thing that wins in a Super Bowl pitch is the idea. End of story, which is always the best possible way that it can be, right? Yeah. It's about the idea. And we had so much fun with the idea. I think the pitch winning idea was not one that went to air, but it was the baby in a rodeo. He may have been on a bull. It was pretty funny. And it was great on many different levels. But the idea is what gets you in the mix.
That's
and
right.
then you have to, in short order, get to know each other really, really, really quick. So when we talk about collaboration and how things come together, 72andSunny shows up with a learning mentality, and I think we show up with a learning mentality on everything we learned from testing and all of the things we were hearing. This is a big moment for E-Trade and Morgan Stanley. Right. And the more we can learn together, the more likely we are to get a powerful piece of work out there for the business. And so we went on a big learning journey, and I think we can all relate to what happens when you have a lot of great concepts. You have a lot of opinions. This is a high-profile platform. It doesn't matter if it's the CEO, the CMO, or our CCO. Everyone comes to the table with an opinion, and what was so amazing about this partnership was it opened with a level of respect. And I think you'll hear one of our co-founders, Glenn Cole, talk about how there is a crisis of trust in our business right now. And, you know, trust is something that you build and that you earn. And when you're going into the Super Bowl, you're trusting that these people are going to get you there, but you don't know us that well. Yeah. I think we can tell you after 9 months of a relationship, it's like we've been working together for 9 years, because you go deep.
It's dog years.
It's dog
doing
years.
A Super Bowl.
Right? And you have a lot of high highs. You have a lot of challenges. You work through a lot of things.
There were some tense times.
There were some tense times. We could talk about the difference between a wiffle ball and a pickleball.
Well, that's where I was going to...
Maybe for hours today, if you really are interested. I now deeply know the difference.
And that's where I was going to jump in, because you've just built it up. We have to watch it now.
Let's roll the tape.
Let's roll the tape of this amazing collab.
You're going to see a teaser and then the spot.
Yeah, we pop up on them like a
light work.
Feeling like cash should have
Next victims. You ready for this?
Pump up the jam, pump it up.
So this is pickleball?
It's basically tennis for babies, but for adults.
It should be called wiffle tennis. Pickle! Yeah.
Yeah, we pop up on them like a pinata.
These guys are intense.
We got nothing to worry about. With E-Trade from Morgan Stanley, we're ready for whatever gets served up.
Dude, you gotta work on your trash talk.
I'd rather work on saving for retirement.
Or college, since you like to get schooled. That's a pretty good burn, right?
Got 'em.
Game.
Thanks for coming to our clinic. First one's free.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Yes, applaud. Yeah, for sure. And that's a build off of last year's, I think it was wedding, like couple of babies getting married,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
and so
right.
I love it when you watch it, and I hope all of you as a consumer and then as a marketer, you sit back and you're like, wow, it really shows like not only the level of thoughtfulness and the attention that obviously is so important, but it really seems to appeal to a wide variety of audiences who are engaging with the Super Bowl. I mean, you're looking at all the demos wrapped into one in a way, right? And so how did maybe the audience kind of influence of where, to your point earlier, trying to connect at all stages of kind of where wealth is, right, across any stage or life stage, how did that influence this kind of idea to net to this being the outcome?
I'll start, and then Marianne, please chime in. So we were coming back for our third spot in a row. We started 3 years ago introducing E-Trade from Morgan Stanley, and we showed the baby living off the grid. It was the pandemic. And since he'd been away, people were getting their advice from memes. So we knew we had to come in and stop that. The second spot was wedding, as Phil said, which was positioning E-Trade from Morgan Stanley as a real life partner, a companion for you as you go through life's biggest moments and helping you prepare. For this third spot, I really relied heavily on Marianne and the 72 team to figure out where could we play, and we felt something that would really be relatable for really, it's all of America, is pickleball. It was the number one fastest growing sport. It appealed to so many generations. It might have started off with a little bit of an older clientele, particularly during the pandemic, but the actual average age at the time we started the work was about 38. So it's a game that transcends age and time and place, and we knew that it would be something, a really big cultural moment we could lean into.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just add, the thing about pickleball, it is deeply competitive. Kind of like
That's right. Yeah,
we like to win. And so what it did is it allowed us to tell a story, whether or not you were 22 or 82, like if you were on the sidelines and you wanted to get in the game, that this was a way to get in the game. And E-Trade is an entry point.
That's right.
To get in the game, and this was just a great way to take something that was culturally relevant, easy to understand, super fun. And if you don't play pickleball, you do wonder about it, because anyone that does play is obsessed. And so if you're on the sidelines, it's intriguing. And come on, babies playing pickleball, it's funny as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played pickleball one time, but I did beat Katie Couric, so don't say
Oh, that's a good
that's for
one.
another story.
That's
But a
to
little
get you
bit.
back out to that panel. I want to be there.
I mean, hello. But that's great. But also, this is amazing. But I think we all know part of what we see just in marketing in general, especially digital or social or sports marketing, is how do you get the most out of it, right? So it was great viewership, 124 million, right? But then how did you extend that and continue to get that share of voice and build the momentum? I think that's a really important question. And I think a lot of marketers are moving in that direction of how do I move from this silo buying of money here, money here, money here, versus what can I invest in that can extend across channel and keep that voice alive.
So true. It can't be one and done. When you make an investment in something like the Super Bowl, particularly today, it's got to be a full 360 strategy. You have to have a strategy before the spot launches. You saw our teaser. It was important to get that on the air and start building momentum and anticipation, eyeballs, attention, press. And then, the day is important. You want to lean into the day. Whatever happens, be ready. And then after the big game is over, how do you continue the momentum? So we did a couple of new things in partnership with our great team at 72. We decided, pickleball was really having a moment, and we wanted to sponsor something in that realm. And the week between the playoffs and the Super Bowl, where there's nothing happening on Sunday, there was something new called Pickleball Slam, which took celebrities of tennis and pitted them against each other. We had Andre Agassi, Steffi Graf, you get it. And we became a sponsor of E-Trade in that real dead zone on Sunday where we know our sports-loving audience is looking for something to watch. We had great placement, so that was a really fun way to activate before the big game and get people talking. And we played our teaser throughout the airing of Pickleball Slam. And then in terms of after the big game, really important for us to continue momentum, we did something we'd never done before. And the 72 came to us with a fantastic idea, and I'll have you probably talk about it, but it's Money Monday.
So what happens on the Monday after Super Bowl? A lot of people probably lost a lot of money.
The gamblers.
What better way to hook them in than to teach them a different way to invest their money? And so we started a program called Monday Money. Money Monday. My God, I can't get it out on this Monday.
It's a tongue twister.
It is on a Monday. And the hook was we'd give you a $1,000 credit if you opened an account. And it was an incredible way to have people it was that moment where they were open to listening. Maybe they wanted a different outcome. That's right. And what happened is we started a digital media program to get people to come and sign up for accounts. And the outcome was incredible. We were trying to get a 5% increase, and I believe we got a 24% increase. And what happened in that moment was we started to realize we had created a program. It was more than a Super Bowl opening of accounts, and it's now become a quarterly program for us to be out there to open new accounts, which is the beginning of the food chain of being owned by Morgan Stanley.
Right.
And so it was a way for us to get new customers into the fold, which, as we know, is just the life cycle of any great brand, is having new people in the mix.
1,000. I mean, if you're going to capture on a cultural moment like that, how do you extend it so that the earned value you get can be a snowball into an additional strategy, There were also some tactics you did on social as well, right?
That's
like,
true.
So there was also some.
Phil's so good at reminding me when I need to tee up that. We
right?
also
It was
leaned
'cause
into
it
new channels.
Yes.
Reddit, which is where a lot of folks are interested in financial information go, and then TikTok.
Right.
We created a whole body of work that we knew we could lean into throughout the year. In and out of Monday to keep the momentum going. So I did bring some TikToks.
You can imagine how many of these the people at 72
Totally.
and Sunny right here did in an hour of how much
and I
fun
can
we had with
imagine
those
all the
things.
voting. I like this one better. I like this one better. I like this one
Totally.
better.
Yeah.
It's insane.
They're all so fun.
That's amazing. But it's also interesting because it was the extension, off of the Super Bowl into all of these other channels and to all of these different strategies, just like you mentioned. But it's also leveraging the asset.
That's right. And
Right? I mean, you've
most
invested
return
this.
on
And
investment
right?
we
For
get.
us, we're seeing a lot of just, hey, we've ran this video asset. How can we take pieces and extend that into all of these different channels
Exactly
as well? It builds brand voice continuity.
I love that. And Get in the
Consistency.
Game works across different sporting events. We're a big sports advertiser, and just that theme of Get in the Game for our business, really resonated. We used assets during March Madness, throughout the U.S. Open this summer, and now we're rolling right back into NFL season. So we shot enough for the year, so we really made the most of that moment on set with all of those amazing babies. And that's also a little fun fact secret, how many babies it takes to shoot the E-Trade baby and his friend. A lot of backup babies on set. They have very strict labor laws.
You've been out there for 20 minutes. It's time to feed. We need a
Nap time.
backup in your stat.
Yeah, roll out the next baby.
That one baby who just had to be exited out.
Babies are unpredictable. You have to have a full
I would
backup
only
crew.
imagine.
You don't
I'd
know what
only
performance you're
imagine.
going to get. Yeah.
It's a
You
great.
never know when they're going to throw
It's
it
a great tie into the next question. So, data driven,
Totally. It's true.
right?
Yeah.
So how did you, in approaching this, obviously marketers, and I don't know if you're feeling this, and maybe many of the marketers in the room are as well. There is this really big push towards look at these amazing spots, look at the cultural moment you were able to connect with, and just the brand connectivity, right? There's this big push on, just leveraging the importance of connection, and I think you said it, trust, even all the way to the consumer, through these more brand engagement, mid, upper funnel. How am I standing out? How am I letting people know who I am and what I'm about? How did that influence from a data perspective, kind of going and making this bet? It's not cheap, right?
No.
Expensive
No.
and an investment. So how did data play into kind of your thought process?
Data is everything. And I'd say it started with just client research. Before we run any spot in the Super Bowl or outside the Super Bowl, we test our spots and the copy and the jokes in numerous qualitative and quantitative research groups, whether we do quant, we do focus groups. It's really, really important for us that the jokes land. And we also want to also be, also having an eye always on diversity and inclusion with everything we do. So it starts with research, just making sure, do people besides our two teams think it's funny? And if it's not, let's rewrite the jokes. And we had a lot of rewriting of jokes. So that's really important. And then measuring. We have since we've been doing this a little bit of time on the Super Bowl front and just in general, we have a playbook and a scorecard. And we always just are looking to do better than the year before and continue to measure every aspect so that it's a real learning for us. From pregame to during the game to after the game, every tactic, we do everything we can to get attribution. Understand performance, figure out how we can iterate and drive even more successful outcomes in the future. So it's critical, it's key. And also internally, those of you here today from brands, you know how important it is to be able to share how that investment performed. Mm-hmm. So it's fantastic for learning, but also for influence management. Mm-hmm.
And I would just say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No pun
She was waiting for
intended.
that.
One of the most important things when you're partnering with clients is that there was a lot of learning from the babies being around for years. And so
That's right.
how we show up, again, when we talk about being in a learning mindset, is the data is critical to us understanding, look, we have a tremendous asset in these babies, but how we use them and then using the data and all of the inputs to make sure we're making them better and better and better every time. Sometimes people forget that that really comes from research and data inputs. Yeah. It's one thing to be out and be culturally relevant and know what's going on. That too is rooted in data. Right. But when you're really looking at a brand that has such tremendous assets, how you use them and really leveraging what was there before and writing the next chapter, data is just a critical tool to do that.
Yeah, it extends all the way probably from the idea and what people are like.
That's right.
What are they attracted to? What's connecting? Just on a more visceral level, all the way down to the data that actually is in the outcomes and the attribution, and did it have the impact financially you were hoping for them? It sounds like you've looked at data to influence everything from ideation all the way down to attribution, measurement, and reporting. Is that fair to say?
Full scale, end to end. And we knew from research we had something with pickleball. I mean, that was the first thing. We knew that was a territory to lean into. And then Money Monday helped us really accelerate performance, really take that momentum the next day and make sure we were continuing to grow accounts, bring in new clients. So that was extremely helpful in sort of extending the life of the moment, and from a performance standpoint particularly.
Amazing. So big drum roll. What's next? What are you two cooking up as we head into the next Super Bowl? Is obviously based on the conversation and us even talking backstage. Super excited about the results. Right, felt it really did do what you were hoping for, Andrea, to connect to the consumers in really that complete, stage of their life when it comes to their own wealth management. How do you see sports overall, but maybe namely the Super Bowl that you're willing to share right now about what you have up your sleeves?
What I just say is, just to use a pickleball reference, absolutely, we're in the kitchen.
Yes,
we are. We're back at the table. We're at the kitchen table figuring out what's next. Mm-hmm. I think you said it best when we were chatting backstage. How would you frame this next chapter in our journey together?
Everybody grows up, and I think that there is just a real truth to the marketplace, to Morgan Stanley and E-Trade coming together, to 72andSunny and E-Trade and our partnership. Like, when things grow and you feed them and fertilize them and they get better and better, it's about taking the time to make sure you're doing the right next move. And I think what's interesting about having a brand like E-Trade and then just looking out in the world for what people are really looking for from their financial partners and figuring out how we continue to grow together, because the offering at E-Trade is really evolving because we're backed by someone like Morgan Stanley. And that is highly beneficial to people, but it's also a pretty high-minded idea.
Right.
And we're used to playing pickleball and having some babies out there doing. So how we do that, again, when it comes to data and analytics and really looking at what's going on in the world, we have a pretty big opportunity sitting in front of us. And so I think we would say through the Super Bowl, we developed and earned and built a lot of trust with each other. We realized that we operate the same way. We like to be in it together. We want to roll up our sleeves and really lock arms and conquer the problems together. And that opportunity is the most exciting thing that there is. And so for us now to be in the kitchen saying, like, don't be precious, Don't be precious. Don't hold on to things that were just because they were, but also care for the things that you have and make sure that you know how they'll work or not work. And so it's a pretty exciting time for us as we sit at the table and figure out what's next. And I would just say, who knows? We're trying to stay as open as we can stay, because that's where the goodness really happens.
Well, and it sounds like you really tapped into leveraging this in ways from previous years that you did this year than ever before.
Different.
I mean, the way that we just look at just how you were able to extend it into TikTok, transfer that into an entire strategy with Money Mondays, move into that. I'm assuming there's learnings from that, you surprises and delights around, wow, this was impactful, and maybe things that you're like, oh, we can sharpen this. So do you see, just regardless of what that strategy is heading into next year with the Super Bowl, is it fair to say it's going to look at how to extend that voice of that throughout as much as you possibly can? Is that a fair conversation to call out?
We're
into
at the table
channels.
conjuring a brew,
Yeah.
magic. We're
Okay.
looking for magic. The other thing I'd say, just to take it in a little different direction, it's so helpful for me to have an agency partner or a partner like GumGum at my side because I need external thinking to
Yeah.
push me, challenge the status quo, question some things that maybe we're holding on to very dearly within a company. If you've grown up with an icon or a mascot or whatever you want to say, it's so helpful to have people push you, and that's I think another secret ingredient of the success of this partnership because you need to be open to the push, and then you need a partner who's willing to push you.
That's exactly.
So hopefully that's enough.
And in the
teasing.
Well,
the only
for
other
what's
thing
to
I would
come.
say to that
Yeah.
is that we didn't talk about this, but I thought it was really interesting. It's part of I talked about you want to embrace what's here and then you want to innovate on it.
Totally,
our
exactly.
job as being creative leaders is to innovate on it. One of the most interesting things from my perspective with the campaign last year was the use of AI and how we
Right.
used AI
yes.
in production when you're talking about
Exactly.
so much work has been done on animating those babies' mouths, okay?
Game
Right.
changer.
Years and years and years.
Yes.
It's another one of the things that, again, we come to the table with a learning
Exactly.
mentality because they've been animating these mouths, and we ended up using the same director,
So much easier
Randy
now.
from Smuggler, who was so awesome. He's also the voice of the baby, and he was a critical partner.
Yeah.
And then we kind of brought a new energy and an innovation. And AI allowed us to not only change our workflow for efficiencies, but also to creatively do different things on set when we were recording. And it just upped the game for all of the production geeks out there. AI was actually one of the most innovative, creative enhancers in
Yes.
doing last year's campaign.
Well,
It's so true.
I was just going to say, I'm
Even with,
glad you got that.
We even used AI we get a lot of, when you brands who've been in the Super Bowl know you get a lot of queries and questions from clients, customers, prospects watching, whether it's over social media or into your call center, and AI helped us prepare for all that incoming volume with, the right answers. So there's so many applications, and it was a great push to bring it into our planning, and we will do so again for go forward 100%.
Yeah, that's an amazing point that you bring up the AI. And I think that's kind of what I was just kind of getting as you look to next year, what were some things that really worked? And if that worked really well,
Amazing.
it's where you can build off of that, right? And it also sounds, and I appreciate you saying it on partners that help push, but vice versa, partners like you that are willing to listen and that are open to kind of the opportunities that we all see as in our own worlds, innovators to where we can help take your brand, that you lean in as well. So I think it's a mutual just trust at the end of the day, like we
Right.
kicked off around your brand is our brand, right? And I'm sure you feel the
That's
same.
so
If
true.
you're partnering with GumGum or if you're partnering with 72andSunny, I think any successful partner is going to carry your brand as if it's their own.
I want
and that
Phil
trust.
and Marianne and GumGum sent you to call me, tell me, things that we need to consider. Like that's the value add.
Because that's the
100%.
value add, right? Especially now with everything AI and all of that, and it's all about those moments. It's all about helping your brand stand out. I think
So true.
partners need to care as if they're yours as well.
Trusted partners
Right,
at the
trusted
table
partners.
with such an external perspective.
Well, this was awesome. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you,
Thank you,
Andrea.
Phil.
Thank you, Marianne.
Marianne.
And we'll look for 2024 or next year's Super Bowl 25.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.